Hi again. Here's another Tajar tale. This one's called The Tajar and the Witch. Wintertime came and all the campers had gone home, and a witch came into the camping area, and she looked around and she said, "This is where I want to spend the winter." And she looked all over the camp and she found an old dead tree, and she looked at it and she said, "This is the perfect tree. I will spend my winter here. This tree is a magic tree and it keeps out the weather." So the witch started housekeeping. First she swept everywhere, cleaned everything off, dusted, and then she made herself a cup of tea. Now all this time the Tajar had been watching from behind a tree. He didn't want the witch to see him, and he knew that the Range Ranger might be upset if he saw that the Tajar was watching the witch. And so the Tajar very quietly went back to his hiding place. But presently, when the witch went out to go walking, the Tajar was feeling very filled with folly, and he decided he had to dance. And so he'd learned how to dance again after getting the tucks in his legs, and he could manage it quite well. So he was filled with folly, and he went dancing in the moonlight. And the witch, who'd been walking, came back and she saw the Tajar. And the Tajar immediately ran to his hiding place so the witch wouldn't see him again. And the witch said, "That was a fascinating animal. I will have to go back to my house and think about it." And she went back to her house and she started thinking about what she saw. But she couldn't remember. And the more she tried to remember, the more she couldn't remember, and the more upset and excited she got. She thought she was losing her mind. But after a while, she just couldn't think of the Tajar anymore, and so she went to sleep. Now, one beautiful night, when the moon was really full and the Tajar was so full with folly, he went out to dance in the moonlight again. But this time he was very careful, and he went up to the tree that was the witch's tree, and he looked in and assured himself that the witch was sound asleep. So he went back out into the clearing and he danced. And he danced on his forelegs and he danced on his hind legs and he danced and he danced. And then he did death-defying life leaps through the branches with his tail. Just then the witch woke up and she went out and she looked. And she looked at him really carefully. And she said, "Now I know why I couldn't remember you before." And she said, "Tajar, Tajar." And the Tajar said, "Yes, sir." And the witch said, "Yes, ma'am." And the Tajar said, "Yes, ma'am." And the witch said, "You have given me a great deal of difficulty and caused me all kinds of trouble and upset. And so now I am going to pay you back with a little of your own magic." And so she took the Tajar and she did a magic around him, and she pinned a magic on his back. And she said, "Now, Tajar, you are invisible. You won't even be able to see yourself, much less anybody else." And that was true. The Tajar wouldn't even have known he had tucks if he couldn't feel them. Now at first this was really fun because the Tajar could sneak up on little animals and surprise them, and once he even grabbed a bird right out of the air. But it was also a little boring because he couldn't see what he was doing. After a while he didn't like this so much anymore. But then one day the Range Ranger came into the area, and the Range Ranger saw the witch's things, and he was very angry because the Range Rangers hate witches, and he was really afraid that the witch might have hurt the Tajar. And so the Range Ranger came over near the tree and said, "Madam Witch, Madam Witch." And the witch said, "Yes." And the Range Ranger looked at her and said, "Yes, sir." And the witch wasn't happy about it, but she said, "Yes, sir," because everyone always does what the Range Ranger tells them to do. And then the Range Ranger said, "Madam Witch, where is the Tajar?" And the witch said, "Oh, I don't know, off in the woods someplace." And the Range Ranger said, Madam Witch, where is the Tajar? And Madam Witch said, well, I don't know. He's just off somewhere else. And for the third time, the Range Ranger said, Madam Witch, where is the Tajar? And the witch kind of looked away, and that made the Range Ranger know that the witch knew more than she was speaking about. So the Range Ranger took his axe, and he said, Madam Witch, are you very fond of your tree? And the witch said, oh no, this is the very best tree I've ever had. It's a magic tree, and it keeps off the weather. Don't hurt my tree. And so the Range Ranger said, well then, where is the Tajar? And the witch said, well, why don't you call him? And so the Range Ranger said, Tajar! And the Tajar right behind him said, yes, sir. And the Range Ranger jumped, and the witch jumped. And then the witch took over the Tajar and took away the magic and unpinned the magic from the Tajar's back. And the Tajar appeared again, and the Range Ranger jumped again. And the witch smiled because she knew the joke was on the Range Ranger. And the Tajar smiled because he knew the joke was on the Range Ranger. And the Range Ranger smiled a little bit because he knew the joke was on himself. And so he felt the Tajar all over and patted his arms and his legs and his back and made sure that he was well. And then he asked the Tajar, are you still able to do your death-defying life leaps through the branches with your tail? And the Tajar said, yes, sir. And so the Range Ranger went away. And after that, you could see the Tajar and the witch walking through the woods, arm in arm, best of friends.